BYU 1970, BS in Electrical Engineering from the Air Force Institute of Technology 1982, MS in Physics from the University of New Mexico 1989. Michael's done graduate work in Egyptology, both, how do you pronounce that? Oh, Free Universität, yeah, okay. Freie Universität, Berlin, and Johns Hopkins University. And Michael's a member of the Board of Trustees of the Foundation for Ancient Research and Mormon Studies at BYU, as is part of BYU, and has held positions as Associate Lecturer of Ancient Scriptures and Instructor of Ancient Scripture. He also taught at the United States Air Force Academy as Assistant Professor of Physics, and served as Director of the United States Air Force Academy Observatory. And his publications include the Four Book of Breathings and the Translation and Commentary, which provides a translational research on one of the many fragments of Joseph Smith Papyri, and a farm paper tells Joseph Smith. Michael, you know, I'm going to quit at this because it's getting too complicated. With that, I'll turn the time over to Michael Rhodes.
Okay. Make sure I'm heard here. Okay. What I'm going to be talking about, stand back a ways. What I'm going to be talking about is a response to the recent video, the Lost Book of Mormon, investigating a remarkable Mormon claim, and my evaluation of the basic flaws in the scholarship in that. This was a video that was produced in 2002 by the Institute for Religious Research at Grand Rapids, Michigan. This is the same group that back in 1985 published the book on Joseph Smith Papyri by his own hands on Papyrus, Charles Larson's book. All right, let's jump into it. Some observations. It's interesting that critics of the Book of Abraham very rarely, if ever, deal with the text itself. They deal with the perceived method by which it was produced and try to prove it false on that basis rather than looking at the text itself. And that's certainly what happens here. In only one tiny instance at all do they even talk about the text itself in this book. This DVD, this video. The text of Joseph Smith's prophetic calling ought to be the book itself. By their fruits shall ye know them, it says in Matthew. And not the methodology he used in producing that text, which we in detail don't know anyway. So that's just an observation to begin with here. The basic argument put forward by this DVD and by that previous book and ever since the papyri fragments became available is that the Book of Breathings papyrus that forms part of these papyri is the papyrus that Joseph Smith used in translating the Book of Abraham. Scholars now translated this book. It is a Book of Breathings. It is the Book of Abraham. Moreover, it can be reliably dated to around the 2nd century BC, nearly 2,000 years after Abraham. Ergo, Joseph Smith was a false prophet. Well, let's look at the flaws in that reasoning. I'm taking each of these arguments step by step. The Book of Breathings papyrus that the church now owns is the actual document that Joseph Smith had. And the reason they say that is because, first and foremost, Facsimile number 1 is part of it. It certainly is part of the collection of papyri that Joseph Smith had. And here we have that particular portion from which Facsimile number 1 was taken, and it's beyond any shadow of doubt that's exactly what it is. Obviously, portions are missing and were filled in by the engraver, but it's obvious that this is the actual facsimile. And it does form the beginning of the Book of Breathings. You can match up the papyri fragments quite nicely, and there's no doubt that this forms the beginning of the Book of Breathings. The name of the author of the Book of Breathings is in the hieroglyphic text to the right of the facsimile, and that name is also found in the hieratic text of the Book of Breathings. The video claims that some of the Kirtland Egyptian papers are the actual documents that Joseph Smith used in the translation process. This is on the basis of the fact that you have passages from the book of Abraham and hieroglyphic characters that are demonstrably from the book of Breathings there. The problem with that is, as Hugh Nibley and others have definitely shown, is that the English text was written in first in a different ink, and that the characters were copied afterwards. In many cases, the characters actually overlap the original English text. So what we have here is not the process of translation, but clearly someone trying to match up Joseph Smith's translation with some characters on the papyri, and it seems to be the unsuccessful attempt of some of the brethren to figure out how Joseph Smith did what he did, so that it's not the translation process at all. All right, we've translated the text. My most recent book is a translation and commentary of that text. It doesn't mention Abraham. There's no book of Abraham in there. How do we reconcile that with the fact that Facsimile 1 is right there at the beginning of it? And in fact, Facsimile 3, although we don't have the original of that, is demonstrably would have come at the end of the text of the book of Breathings. Oops, boy, I really went fast there. I'll catch up, no problem at all. I'm still too far ahead. Yes, there we go. Indeed, the fragments we do have contain no mention of Abraham, but they're only fragments, and that's a key point here. We only have a tiny bit of all of the papyri that Joseph Smith had. And we can come up with percentages if we want. The key point is we only have fragments. Of the actual Book of Breathings, there are probably 40 to 50% of the total text of the Book of Breathings found on the papyri. Whether there were other texts on the papyri, we don't know, because we don't have all of the papyrus. And there's no reason why a copy of the Book of Abraham couldn't have been on there. To say that there couldn't have been is simply an argument from silence and not good scholarship. In the video, Robert Rittner, who's a professor of Egyptology at Chicago, maintains that it is totally unprecedented to find two different texts on an Egyptian papyrus like that. There are, in fact, numerous examples of just that. Probably the one that's of greatest similarity here is that Papyrus Fongier, which has a Book of the Dead, an Egyptian religious text like the Book of Breathings, on one side, and a tale on the other about a man who was sacrificed. Remarkable parallels with the Book of Abraham. So there are, in fact, examples of ancient Egyptian papyri with multiple texts on them. We simply don't know what's on the rest of the papyrus. All right, how about the fact that it can be reliably dated to the 2nd century BC rather than 2000 BC, the assumed date of Abraham? They make a big deal about the fact that in the introduction there it says, written by his own hand upon papyrus. That's simply indicating the authorship of the original book. I can take a copy of Harry Potter and say this was written by whatever her name is, I don't know what it, and Rowling's, there we go. That doesn't mean she wrote that one that I'm holding in my hand. It's simply a copy of an original text. All this says was originally authored by Abraham, and what we have is a copy, not the original one penned by him previously. All right.